the personality you are and having the right people in those right roles matters in business more than anything else.
Start when we stop, we gon' get it done. Get it when we start, we gon' get it done. Start when we stop, we gon' get it done.
Anthony's World.
Y'all ready for this? What's going on, everyone? I'm Anthony. You know me as Anthony's World. We are back in Paradise Studios with another motherfucking LivingIcon Podcast episode. But first, the paper's here again for the 500th time that I have to fucking read. So, we have an amazing special guest today, and his name is Jaramy Eugene motherfucking Wilson. Yeah, I had to add the motherfucker in there. He is a serial entrepreneur with a track record of building and scaling multi-million-dollar companies. He's advised over 15,000 entrepreneurs and served as a strategic advisor to Fortune 100 companies, pro athletes, celebrities, and CEO. Alongside his experience in business, Jaramy's unique blend of compassion and expertise in, as he coins, soul science. Okay, so I'm gonna have to fucking really learn this soul science thing. All right, we're going soul science. And human behavior makes his teachings and speeches both extraordinary, impactful, and authentic. Yo, that was a good intro. Almost like I wrote it myself. What's up, dog, bro? How are you doing, bro? You living? I love this, man. How are you, bro?
I'm fantastic.
Yeah, you living life? Yeah.
The good, the bad, the ugly, I'm here for all of it.
Hey, ain't that the truth? So he just told me a story real quick outside, but I want them to hear why the full name.
Yeah, the full name, a couple reasons. One, first reason is I believe all of us, regardless of our relationship with our mother, our father, our brothers, our cousins, our aunts, our uncles, that we owe it to our ancestors, right? We all know, looking back to our childhood, we've had to go through a lot of hard shit to get where we are, no matter where we are. And I feel we deserve some semblance of respect to our ancestry, right? Your name
represents something.
It represents something. So I feel like a lot of people lack confidence in fully owning who you are, and I believe it starts with your name. And so I got a long name, like you said. I go by Jaramy Eugene MF Wilson. The MF doesn't always get presented, but that's who I am.
Yeah.
And so I want to own that in fullness. And the other reason, we could be here for a couple hours explaining, but in essence, it sounds cheesy to most people if you're not into the woo, but it's a soul contract. That is you. That's who the fuck you are, and it's also why you're here. And the simple and short, the science tied to it. I walk up to a piano anywhere in the world, doesn't matter the language you speak, the color of your skin. If I enter 3 ascending notes on that piano, bum bum bum, you feel that? It creates and elicits an emotional response. Bum bum bum. We breathe, we relax. The same 3 notes in a descending pattern, bum, 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 has the opposite effect. That descending note, that tonality, creates restriction and tightness. So your name is actually a song, right, that creates an emotional experience. That's why every Jennifer you've met has something in common. That's why all Karens are typically Karens,
yep.
Right? So there's actually some really strong science behind it, even though it sounds a little woo initially. And so when you own your full name, there's a story, a curriculum you're meant to experience here. Some people call it karma, right? But it's tied to your life experience, your purpose, your talents, your goals, and your destiny. That's who you were destined to be. You can't change it, right?
Epic, bro. That's epic, man. That's cool. All right, so we going deep today, man. I love this. Man, I might need a glass of whiskey for this one. You know what I'm saying?
If we have to take a pause in the middle for some whiskey or something.
He's like, I'm in, dog. No, I love this, bro. So, man, can you dive in? Give me a little bit of your backstory, a little bit of who you are. Where the fuck are you from? What is life? Where has your life brought you to this point? Where, what, when, how, who? You know what I mean? Give me something.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Montana. I grew up in Montucky, right? John Wayne culture. Where I grew up, emotions weren't really valued, and you better know hard work, and you better have a high pain tolerance, right? So I grew up pretty country boy, and I still have a country heart, but I've always had a city mind, right? I grew up looking around me like, what are people doing? And part of that was because when I was very young, I had a near-death experience. I actually had a full-death experience. I flatlined. I drowned when I was 4 years old. My dad drove a car off a cliff into a lake when I was just a little boy. And it just opened my eyes, right? I had to learn how to basically re-walk when I was just a little baby, right? When I was 4 years old. And I'll never forget like laying in that hospital bed, everyone's feeling bad for me. Like I remember my grandma being like, "You poor boy." I remember after enough days being in the hospital, like just looking out the window and seeing the like wind move the leaves in the trees and having this overwhelming feeling of like, we're all alive. What's everyone so worked up about? And right?
Yeah.
It's like we're fucking alive. We're here. I made it. And even though I had some recovery and stuff, that was nothing. And the reason I bring that up is because I just feel like it was such a blessing and a gift early on. And although my nickname was Death Wish till I was 30, and I've flatlined about a half a dozen times total in my life, I decided early on I wanted to live, and that most people that maybe thought I was an unhealthy risk taker were just boring people who weren't living their life. So I actually love the name of this podcast because I knew when I went, whether that was in childhood or in adulthood, that I was going to live as an example for other people what that looked like. Right?
Yeah.
So entrepreneurial risks, doing shit that's a little crazy in most people's perspective, going deeper than most people are willing to, has just always been a natural part of who I am from the way I was raised. I also grew up with an amazing grandfather, even though my mom and dad weren't around a lot. They were entrepreneurial. They were up in the morning, came home 10, 11 at night. I had an amazing grandparent, both grandparents actually, but my grandfather was a World War II vet, like Normandy Beach survivor, right? Like
Damn.
Saving Private Ryan, the U-boats, like he was there.
That's crazy.
And served 7 years on foot in the Army. And so he was 4.5 years on ground in World War II, 1.5 years in the Korean War. And I grew up with that example of somebody who, you know,
to look up to.
Purple Hearts, but the happiest dude you'd ever meet, right? Taught me a lot about what God is, taught me a lot about what happiness is, and how it's found in like presence and actually believing in yourself and taking big fucking risks. So that translated to a really early, you know, independence mindset for me, where I just believed in myself really early on. Some people would say I was a little cocky and arrogant, but I just fucking had really young emotional certainty and confidence that just led me down a path most people are unwilling to go down. And that brought me into a world of entrepreneurship and sales and management of big companies that eventually allowed me to see what others were doing was possible for me. And I started taking really big risks, lost a ton of money, made a ton of money.
It's the game, ain't it?
Helped a ton of people make a ton of money and not make the mistakes I made. And that's actually like, it just grew into a passion where I was like, man, I can just help these people get beyond their stupid fears that are usually pretty fucking just that, ridiculous.
Yeah, stupid fears, yep.
That we can create a lot of impact on this earth, not only in like those people's lives, but the people they're here to serve.
Yep.
And so I'm a little weird in the sense that like, when it comes to business, I get a little like spicy. So a lot of people know me as like self-love, self-worth, self-image improvement. But like when it comes to business, I truly believe that, you know, if you can provide a service that solves a problem and people are willing to pay to solve that problem, then you have an obligation to become extremely wealthy doing that thing. And although the world is not, you know, bathed in the traditions of religion that used to provide morality and ethics and like drive people to do what's right for their community, for their culture, for their country and the world, I believe that ultimately it's entrepreneurs that answer prayers more than politicians, more than preachers in the church. So I get a little fired up about it because there's a lot of people praying.
Yep.
And so that's what drives me. Like just solving problems for people and being the man that I didn't have as an example growing up.
Love that. So you kind of had this whole soul science. I got to get into this. What is this? What is this soul science?
Soul science. So I love that question. So I'll go from basic to, you know, a little more depth, but I'll try and keep it brief. Soul science is the study of the unseen energy that influences our behavior. It's that simple, right? It doesn't matter if you fucking believe in spirit or soul. It's been proven through science that we're all transmitting an electrical energy field, right? There's this toroidal voltage at all times that we're exchanging and transmitting in the environment.
Yep.
You know, when you walk in a room, somebody that's got a really low vibe, right? If you walk in a bank and there's two tellers to go to and one's like looks a little grumpy and one's got a smile on their face, which one are you going to?
The smiley, happy one.
Right? Yeah, that energy transmits. When we're breathing deep, it can transmit up to 400 yards and be measured outside the body. When we're holding our breath and we're in low frequency, disempowering emotions, fear, shame, guilt, that feels small. So although you can't see it with the eyes, if you put on a different set of lenses that can measure infrared light and all the other frequencies of light, right? You'd see that you're truly just like the sun. Your body is a little fucking electrical meat sack. We're just a battery, and we're just storing, charging, and transmitting that electricity. So in basics, that's the core of soul science. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to study that beyond the influence that energy we have on each other and in our environments. Like if you go ask anyone in like emergency urgent care or somebody that's working in a hospital, or if you ask somebody that's in police or search and rescue, first responders, none of them want to work on full moon, right? Why? Because the moon influences human behavior. They've created terms about this called lunacy. The term lunatic comes from the influence that lunar energy has over people.
Interesting.
So just that in of itself, we've got a whole bunch of planetary bodies. You've seen the sky at night, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of little dots up there. Well, if that light's reaching your eyes, it's probably influencing you in other ways as well. And most people just don't think of that. So I study those unseen influences of both the cosmos, our environmental conditions, other people, and how that influences our behavior. To do stupid shit or push the button, pull the lever, stripe the credit card, and create commerce. Wow. My favorite part of soul science is not so much the universal aspects. There's a lot of people that have proven, like Heart Math Institute, Joe Dispenza, David Hawkins created the emotional frequency scale. There's a lot of science behind this. Mm-hmm. You know how I got into soul science?
Absolutely.
Walmart, right? Where I'm from, people say it like there's an O instead of an A. Walmart. So I grew up in a little town in Montana, and when Walmart launched, it was like, it was like the Taj Mahal for rednecks, right? And so it was a big deal. Everyone knew what Walmart was. It was expanding across the whole nation. And then when they built it into a super Walmart, everyone was like, wow. So when I was really young, I got emancipated from my parents early on. And I experienced a traumatic injury in my leg. I almost lost use of my right leg. I severed my patella, shattered my kneecap. And I spent 18 months working a full-time job, living on my own, going to high school with 12 degrees flexibility in my right leg, told I'd never walk without a crutch or a cane. And some guy came into my work, this dude named Chuck, and he was like, how you doing, man? I was like, I'm good, man, I'm golden. He was like, no, I mean here. I see you in pain. And it like stunned me. And he introduced me to these like Japanese magnetic health technologies, magnets. We live on a giant magnet, right? North Pole, South Pole. He introduced me to these Japanese magnets from a company in Japan called Nikan, or Nihon Kenko Zushin Kenkyukai. And it allowed me to understand the basics of Maslow's hierarchy, how to actually like provide my body what it needs. All the body needs to heal is oxygen, water, nutrients, energy, rest, and the circulation to deliver those things, right? And these magnetics, I got to watch the language I use because we live in a country with more lawyers than doctors, but essentially it stimulates blood flow. And I regain use of my leg in a matter of 6 months. After 18 months of these assholes in white coats telling me, you're screwed, you're going to need this surgery, you're going to need these steroids for your whole life, and nothing worked. I had 12 degrees flexibility in my leg. And so the shit worked. And then the guy invited me to some wellness presentation at his house. It was an MLM. This guy
gets around.
I get there, and this guy's living in some 30,000 square foot mansion and like had nice shit. And I was like, rich dad, poor dad. I was like, man, I should probably listen to this guy. And while I was there, he handed me a book. He's like, you should really consider reading this book. And I kind of cross-eyed looked at him and looked at the book, and I flipped it over, and on the back of the book, it's called Power versus Force by David Hawkins, Power versus Force. I flipped the book over, and there was a testimony on the back of the book from Sam Walton. I was like, Sam Walton? This woo-woo, hippie, fucking weak-ass shit? How is it validated by Sam Walton? And so it opened my mind and my eyes to want to study this stuff, and that's where it started. And if you go actually study the story, They used to muscle test what products they were going to put in the store and do all sorts of crazy things outside of just traditional institutional business when they launched that company. And that book just started it all for me. I recognized that there was a science where our emotions are actual frequencies on a 0 to 1,000 scale, and our emotions govern our breathing patterns. So our emotions govern our experience and our perception, and vice versa. Our breathing patterns govern our emotions.
Wow.
So someone that's in shame, they don't breathe much, right? You can move that really quickly with breath. So anyway, that's how I got into all this stuff.
What's the name of that book again?
Power versus Force.
Power versus Force. We'll put it somewhere
By
down below.
David Hawkins.
Love that. You know what's crazy is actually with my good friend. He's a doctor. He's a very, very good doctor. But he doesn't believe in traditional medicine. He's helping like with my wife. She has not a lot of health issues, but she has a few health issues, and he's been helping. But he doesn't believe in medicine. But he believes in vitamins and blood flow, like getting your blood to like circulate. But we were doing some tests, and he was like showing me. He was like, sit here and like you'll like push my arm down, and he's like tell the truth. And he'll start, and he's like, just talk about your life and like, but be honest, 2 + 2 is 4. Be honest. He goes, now lie, and then the moment you lie, your arm you get weaker.
That was the first time I experienced that. Ben, I just told you about. They're having me do that thing, and I was like, this has to be some placebo stuff.
Like it even showed us like if you cover the belly button, your body becomes weaker.
Yeah,
because the belly button's covered because it's the life center of the force.
We're exchanging energy with all of our people. People don't realize. We're a brain connect this crazy nervous system. You cool if I go a little deeper on this?
Fuck yeah.
This shit's so simple. It pisses me off. All these,
here we go. I love
so
this.
many hippies teaching the wrong things, okay? There's human design. I'm a huge, huge, huge advocate and fan of human design, but I am not a fan of the people teaching it because most of them are broke hippies, okay? So
let's go.
In simplicity, doesn't matter where you're born on the planet, you're born with 33 vertebrae. No matter who you are, that's how we're built. We all have arms and legs, or for, majority's sake, if you're not mutated in some way. 33 vertebrae. Sitting nicely between those vertebrae are 32 central nerves. That's it, 32 central nerves. Yes, some of our vertebrae fuse, but those 32 nerves are our core circuitry that, translate and transfers electricity to and from our outer environment and inside our body. Well, those nerves collect in 9 central areas inside the body. I hate the term chakras. It's overused. But we have neural centers where all that wiring comes together, and it doesn't end in the body. We're transmitting and receiving energy, and each one of us has a unique combination of those 9 central neural centers that are either transmitting or receiving energy. So you're absolutely correct. Every person has a different setup of how they're translating and transferring that energy between other people, and that's why I'm so passionate about that side of soul science. So there's universal soul science, the shit that applies to all of us, right? If the sun doesn't come out tomorrow, we all die. That's like soul science 101, right? The earth is this big magnet transmitting electricity. The sun's another big magnet transmitting all sorts of light and electricity. The earth's protecting us from the harmful stuff, right? Only thing that breaks through our atmosphere, 53% infrared light, 40% full spectrum, 7% UV. Without that exact formula, we'd be a cesspool without the UV, or we'd be nuclear irradiated if there was more. 53% infrared, cells can't duplicate without infrared light. And 40% visual, that's the 7 colors we see, the visible spectrum. So the earth, same thing, this big transmitter, well, we're no different. We're transmitting, exchanging energy all the time. So this other side, these 32 vertebrae, 33 vertebrae, 32 nerves, they each have an ending. You know how a circuit breaker works on your house? If I walk up to the circuit breaker in your house and I just start turning shit on and off, light doesn't come on in certain rooms, right? Well, that's how we're wired. The moment you come out of your mother's auric field, the transmission on the earth, you're born from the stars more than you're born from your parents. Cool if I go on genetics? I know I commandeered the combo a little bit.
Bro,
this shit fires me up.
Dude, I fucking love this. This is great.
Not enough containers to share this in. I gotta share more of this shit. So essentially, like you leave your mother's womb. Well, 10% of your genetics is from your family. This is pseudoscience. A lot of people argue this, but fact check me. In the 50s, when Crick and Watson classified the human genome, and you're going to start seeing some parallels. You know what a strand of DNA hypothetically looks like, right? Like a ladder that's been twisted.
Yeah.
We all saw Jurassic Park. So there's 64 steps on that ladder. 64 steps. And And when they classified the human genome, they just basically went through each step on that ladder. That's just an arrangement of amino acids for the most part. That's right, just really basic. And they're like, all right, this code is responsible for eye color. This code's responsible for bone structure. This is organ development. And they got done with the whole human genome, and they're like, we did it. We mapped the human genome. We found every parallel in genetics that align with every physical attribute. And still to this day, that's how we, in America at least, teach the classification of the human genome. And someone was like, what about that other 90% of code you guys haven't like applied any kind of parallel to? And they said, that's dormant. That's junk DNA, right? This is very physical.
Yeah.
All they did was classify the physical. That other 90% is responsible for the way you think, the way you feel, the thoughts in your head, the voices those show up in, how we exchange information with other people, subconsciously, psychically, intuitively, our core intuition type. Like, you were born from the stars. 10% of your genetics is responsible for the way you look, right? Your makeup. The rest is like all astrological. And that moment you come out of your mother's auric field, just like the Earth's protecting us, now you're in that direct neutrino stream. Based on the time you're born on that day, it determines which circuits are on and off on the house. And there's 64 circuits. That's it. There's 64 circuits. So I can like pull up a chart, tell you how you're exchanging energy with the outside world. And I'll try and go a little deeper, and then I'll flip it back. How I got into all that shit, I was an entrepreneur. Teaching sales, marketing, branding, all this stuff. I wasn't into the woo-woo. I'd done all sorts of
I like
cool
how you call it
stuff.
the woo-woo.
It is woo, right?
That's cool. That's cool.
It's just fucking like,
It's cool.
For most people, that's all it is. It's like wind.
Yeah.
Woo.
So you could tell me a lot about my birthday?
Everything. More than you could ever imagine. It'd freak you out.
Yeah, you want to do this right now?
Yeah,
Can we do this?
let's do it in a minute. Let me frame this, though.
I'll go do it.
So here's how I got into all this stuff. I got 2 kids at the time. I have 3 now, but I had 2 kids at the time. My daughter was 18 months old, and with our first kid, our daughter, like she came out of the womb just like eye contact, connection. She wanted held and hugged. There was an instant bond I had with this little girl. She loved me. I loved her. She was like connected. Next kid that came out, 18 months later, our son, totally the opposite. So at that time, I'd invested hundreds of thousands of dollars into my self-development, like to heal all the fucked up shit from my childhood, to like love myself, to have a high self-image, high self-worth. And so my wife and I were really committed to wellness across the board. And so we had attributed our daughter's behavior and her character and her personality to like us. We're like, we're doing a good job.
Yeah.
We knew it. We knew this would be the kind of kid we have. Well, it didn't help that I got hit by a car like a week before my son was born on my motorcycle, almost lost my other leg. But that's for another story and maybe another episode.
I was not kidding when he said a lot of near-death.
Done a lot of crazy shit. And it's all been a gift. But here's what happened. So a few months into my son being alive, he was totally opposite of my daughter. He hated me. He wouldn't let me hold him. If I held him, he'd cry his face off. And I'm not talking like until I handed back to mom. Like it would like mess him up. Like he was scared of me. If he was in his car seat across the room and caught eyes and saw I was in the room, he'd start howling. So a few months into his life, he manifested eczema. I don't know if you guys know what eczema is. All over his entire body. Like a garbage pail kid, right? He had these pussy open wounds. Imagine a baby. Pussy, cracked skin with open wounds. Literally turning into like these gross open wounds on his head, on his neck, his arms. And what's a baby do? They scratch. They make it worse. It was like horrible experience. And so we invested like a huge fortune of money through holistic natural healthcare to try and solve it. Nothing worked. And so finally we went to like traditional pediatric clinic, right? AMA, whatever you want to call that. That's why I'm careful about what I say, right? I'm not really a fan. But my point is, we were like, well, we got to try this option. So we go to a pediatric doctor, and they're like, try the steroid cream. This will work. We went back for our follow-up visit 2 weeks later, and they're like, how'd it work? We're like, we tried the steroid cream. It worked for a minute, stopped the itching, seemed like it was going away. Then it came back like 10 times worse than it's ever been. And you can't just apply this cream on big open wounds.
Yeah.
So we did it again, it went away, and it came back even worse, like the worst ever. So we haven't used it the last 5-6 days, but they were like, okay, sounds like it was working. It sounds like we needed a stronger dose. Instead of like 8%, we want to do like 80%. And I was like, yeah, I don't think my kid has a steroid deficiency, motherfucker. Right? I was like, I'd like to find the cause instead of like just try and paint over the top of it with some cream, bro. I don't want to mess with his hormones.
That's
and
what
steroids.
find the root cause of everything.
Yeah, so here's what they said to us. My wife, I'll never forget it. This is actually why I was like, man, I'm glad you brought this out of me today. Reignite some of that passion and why I love this shit so much. Most people are confused because I'm kind of a G, but then I'm kind of a fucking weird wizard with all this stuff.
Woo-woo.
Woo-woo, yeah.
Woo-woo wizard.
So this is what they did. They handed me a piece of paper, and they said, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, we need you to sign this piece of paper, stating that you were declining our recommended medical treatment and that you stopped usage of 2 weeks ago the recommended medical treatment that we provided you then, which is basically you stating that you are going against the best health decision for your son. And we want to let you know that you shouldn't be surprised if a week from now, Child Protective Services is at your house. We took pictures today of his condition. They're going to probably take pictures that day as well. And if his condition worsens, you could lose care over your son. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's still I feel sad, mad, and want to hurt somebody when I even tell the story again. But what hurt me the most was like, I'm the kind of guy, I've been through some crazy shit. And I'm the kind of guy, I will make people laugh at a funeral. You know what I mean? Like, I can break the ice and pull people out of the dark because I've been in darker places than the gray space most people think is dark, right? And that day, my wife's eyes went black, right? She had no color left in her skin. She was like, it broke her. And I'd never experienced that. And I'd always had the ability. She's like my rock, my soul's keeper, you know what I mean? And the whole way home, I even get goosebumps thinking about it. Like, I could not crack the ice. For like 4 hours, I was trying, and it was like I was dead to her. And so here I was, Mr. like world-class coach and guru, and, you know, do all the breakthrough stuff, all the mindset stuff, and it just kind of like fucked me up, right? So that night, I just tore my whole office apart, pulling out all these manuals, all these training guides, all of my teachings to try and like figure out how can I shift my wife. And then it went on till it was like late at night, and I'm smoking a little weed and ringing sound bells and doing anything I could to try and reclaim my vibration, because we know if we raise vibration, outer condition usually matches, right? Einstein said you can't solve a problem from the same state of being you created it from. And I had hit kind of an end of a wall. It's like 4 a.m. And at the time, I'd been introduced to this woo-woo astrology called human design. And I didn't believe in the shit. I'm a scientist. I like to validate with multi-verifiable evidence. I don't care what your book says. I'm going to go and find out. So I had been running a funnel online to teach people their intuition type so they could shortcut the sales process, right? Rather than the active listening. What I hear you saying is, it'd be like, what I hear you saying is, but what I sense you really feel is, and teach people how to tap into core intuition to shortcut the sales process with people, right? Be a psychic ninja. And so I had never really, thought for a second of pulling my kids' charts, because if I'm going to pull your chart, I'm going to be like, hey, does this show up for you? And you're going to validate it. I'm not going to tell you what it means. Yeah. You're going to tell me what it means.
Yeah.
And I pulled my kids' charts that night. And I went, holy fucking shit. Actually, it healed so much for me. Because I told you, I grew up in Montana. I grew up in John Wayne culture. And I'm actually a dude that has a lot of feelings, believe it or not. Even though sometimes I can be ice cold, like a killer, I have a lot of feelings. But I learned to suppress the shit out of that because it didn't serve me at all growing up in any capacity. No one thought it was cool. Not even me. So it served me in one capacity, in another it didn't. So a lot of the money I'd invest in self-development is because I thought I was fucking broken. I had all the gurus. I'd sit here and name drop, but I don't need a freaking cease and desist. A lot of them told me I was broken. They're like, I think you need to do some more tapping, Jaramy. You need to get some more EFT. You need to do you need some trauma release therapy. All this shit. And it was right then. I looked at my kids' charts and I went, my daughter thinks this way, feels this way, has this voice in her head. Here's how she experiences, expresses, and exchanges emotions and energy of other people. And here's my son. Holy shit, he's like me, right? He feels things other people feel. He thinks things that other people, he thinks this way. And I realized they were totally different. And in that moment, I was like, I've been wanting my son to be like my daughter. And it was right then, I was like, how many well-intending parents that are conscious, that are like loving, caring, commit presence and time to their kids, but secretly inside of them, they're judging one kid, wishing this kid was a little bit more like their brother or their sister. And that was me growing up. My brother was funny, laid back, easygoing, and I was kind of a little bit more existential. Wow. And it was then I was like, holy fuck. People have no clue who the fuck they are at the core, why they feel the way they feel, why they think the things they think. And it's not from trauma. It's not from conditioning. It's not from their upbringing. It's who they are genetically. That's how they're wired. And it was right then I was like, oh man, I went on my barefoot Jesus walk for a few years and got really woo, right? And just, I was like, I'm going to know this shit better than any of these hippies. And that was like, 11 years ago, some shit. So anyway, forgive me for coming here in the whole conversation.
No, dude, I love this.
You got me fired up.
So, but I do want to know more on like that, like in that situation, what happened, like how were you able to?
Well, here, interestingly enough, just through the awareness of that, my son's eczema cleared up within a month. Because think about it. Empathy, most people think that that's just like acknowledging someone's pain. Can you be empathetic? No, empathy is me experiencing your fucking pain. And for me, I'm like a guitar amplifier, right? So like someone else strungs the guitar and I'm the amplifier. So you want to get pissed off right now? Get pissed off. I'll be like, you want to get pissed off? You want to see pissed off? Someone else gets sad and I'm like, man, I'm like 10 times more sad. Other people's emotions influence and affect me. Same with my son. So here's me and my wife all stressed over his condition. Stressed.
You're just making it worse.
Feeling guilt and shame that we can't take away that pain. And what electrical energy is that giving him? This low vibration. If you read Biology Belief by Bruce Lipton, cells are either in repair and heal mode and they're relaxed from the electrical energy that our brain and our nervous system sending, or we're in fight, flight, freeze, defend. So he was just in a massive defense mode. His body was like
trying to fight everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did a couple other things too, but 90% of it was just that because we didn't change anything else. He was a freaking baby drinking boob milk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
Wild, right?
Yeah. So and that's how it all started. Like this whole.
That's how it all started. And I was already a really sharp business guy. I'd done a lot of things at like a big level, ran a bunch of companies of my own, hired on to manage other people's big companies. And so like it was a world away of the direction I wanted to go. And it just so happened that period of time in my life when, I got hit by that car right before he was born, I'd already shifted like something major in me. I was like, I'm done listening to all this bullshit in my head. I'm going to go after what I know I'm here for. And so it was like just another compound step into that. I was like, I know this was on purpose. The universe doesn't make mistakes. This shit was for me.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
How old do you think I am?
Oh, this is a bad question.
Haha, no.
How old do I? You have a lot of wisdom, and you said you've been in business like we've been for 11 years. So I would say you're probably in your early 30s.
I'm 40.
40.
Yeah.
40.
I'm 40.
40, man. That's awesome, bro. You got good skin too, man.
Thanks, Army.
What's your skincare routine?
Mainly drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
And study voltage.
Really?
Because it's
I'm actually serious. He's got like really good skin. I was like, damn, this dude's got really good skin.
Thank you. No Botox, no filler. This is all natural.
Hey.
Right?
So can you really tell someone like their life and about their life?
Yeah. You know
bro,
what time you were born?
Yo, can you hand me my phone? I literally just asked my mom this the other day. Let's get into this real quick.
Let's get into
fucking
it.
Gangster.
This is some of my favorite stuff. A lot of my highest level like friends that are gurus, celebrities.
We're calling Desiree right now.
This is why they're like
calling my moms.
You get me, bro. I'm like, no,
hey,
man, this is who you are.
I'm on a podcast right now. What time was I born? 6:58. 6:58 p.m.
Okay, so 1858.
All right, thank you. Bye.
What day? Month?
May 29th. May 29th, 1995.
1995.
Should I take notes on this?
Please.
I meant like, should I I want to write it down. I want to write it.
You have access to me, so if you want to like go deeper, like.
Yo, this shit's awesome. We're about to learn a lot about y'all. Are about to learn a lot about me. This is supposed to be a podcast learning about you.
Hey,
and I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about me now.
When you start, I was like, we could be here for like 8 hours or 3 days. Like, you get me talking, man, and I'm pretty articulated in a lot of different subjects.
All right, I'm gonna take.
What city? Where
Jackson, Mississippi.
Jackson, Mississippi.
My notes. That's what I named it. My notes.
Jackson, Mississippi.
down in the south.
Are you ready for this?
Yeah,
Ready for
all,
this?
all from my time. You got to come in so we can see.
So
this
this is the human design chart. Here, I'll show it to the camera too, right? But I don't like to call it human design for a couple reasons. So let me pre-frame something first. For any of your audience listening, I don't want them to go down a rabbit hole that leads them to a pond of crocodiles, okay? So let me pre-frame this. Human design, I love it. And the guy that channeled it all together, brought all these systems together of understanding, all of the teachings that he recorded in the books that he did was like 99 to 2002. The definitive book of human design, 2002 was published. He died in 2011. And the shit he taught in 2002 versus 2011, he knew he let Pandora out of the box in the wrong way. And, you know, if you were figuring things out, it'd probably better have a little more experience before the whole world goes and regurgitates it and makes it like people are victims to this. As if, this is me, I'm supposed to, individual circuitry, collectives, I'm supposed to think about myself. And no, man. He didn't even call it individual or collective circuitry around the time he died. He called it melancholy, because when you think about yourself, you suffer. You have a lot of hormones that cause you depression. When you're thinking about serving other people, believe it or not, even if you're suffering, you're happier. You transmit more hormones that create courage to take action. So anyway, I wanted to pre-frame that for some of the people watching. Don't go down the rabbit hole thinking, you know, it's all sunshine and butterflies. I've created my own system called Soul GPS. It's our genetic personality system. It's not just like hippie talk. So, okay, back to the point. This is the chart.
Yeah, let's get this real quick.
You see the shapes on there? On that, it's called a body graph. There's 9 shapes. That's where those nervous centers collect, and you're either transmitting or receiving energy. There's 9 of them. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4. The white ones, those are open. Those receiving. You're sucking in energy subconsciously, right? But those are like windows into another world. Like it's like another set of eyes if you know what it is, and each one's a little different. Like if you're flying through a cloud in an airplane, you can't see. You got to look at the gauges, right? That's what these are. So top and bottom. You know, I bet if you went into the doctor's clinic, have you ever been told you're a little ADD or ADHD at all?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Every day of my life.
So the very top's called a crown. The very bottom's called a root. Those are presence centers. You can actually like be thinking about other things other than what's right here in front of you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing, but like when you have an open crown, for instance, like you'll think about weird shit in kind of like a pattern. It's like
the most random times.
Yeah, like people are like, I asked you a question, where'd you go? You're like, I thought of this, and it reminded me of this, and it reminded me of this. You could go out on the river.
Literally just talked about this like an hour ago. Yeah, it's crazy. That's how my brain works.
Open crown. You also play things over like a ripple in a pond. So if some happy thing, like amazing sex, something really exciting happens, or something traumatizing happens, your mind plays it on repeat, like a ripple in a pond. It's like the event happens, and then your mind keeps playing it over and over and over, forever, actually. So imagine you're floating down the river on a hot, sunny day, and you're just like floating, hanging with your friends, and you're like, I wonder if Lewis and Clark floated this river. I wonder what Sacagawea was like in real life. Sacagawea. For some reason, that reminds me of Mrs. Butterworth. Mrs. Butterworth? I remember when my aunt used to make me pancakes when I was a kid. Oh, shoot. I haven't reached out to my cousin in a couple years, and he's going through some hard stuff. I wonder what he's up to. Oh, that reminds me of that time we rode by. That's how your brain works.
Yeah.
So some people call it ADD, but it's not. The bottom is ADHD, okay? That means that even when you have time to rest, your brain sometimes does not let you rest. You're like, you'll sit down, you could be tired, and you finally sit down, and you're like, wait, do I deserve to rest? I still have shit to do, right? So it can be difficult. You're also very responsive. One thing that pisses you off when you have an open route, when you're in a text thread with someone, you're texting back and forth, and they just go radio silent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can really trigger you because you're very responsive. And sometimes you respond to things you don't need to respond to. The doorbell rings, you're like, someone's at the door. It's probably Amazon just fucking leaving shit, right?
Yeah.
You're just kind of a little bit hyper.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hyper. That's all it is.
Very much so.
So that's what those two are. So I'm going to give you something right now. For you watching, Heart Math Institute, one of the greatest scientific-backed companies on the planet that has validated more research about like the electrical transmission that we're exchanging. They've proven the heart center, like your heart is transmitting electrical energy. And your head is transmitting electrical energy. And when they disagree in frequency, just like when you're listening to a song and one note's off or the drummer's off beat, you don't need someone to tell you. You feel it. It's like nails on a chalkboard, right? Mm-hmm. It's called incoherence. And the opposite is called a coherence. So when this frequency and this frequency align, we're transmitting, it's like 1 + 1 = 25. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So there's a little meter you can put on your ear. You can go online, you can go to HeartMath and order an inner balance meter. Got a little app on my phone. It's real-time biofeedback. So the reason I'm sharing this is because check this out. The answer is universal. Watch, you'll feel coherent answer right now. So this is the way I would teach someone to ground themselves if they have an open presence center. You got 2 of them open. I got 1 of them open, and it's loud, right? You hear people's thoughts. You think of someone, they call you. You're like a big receiver and transmitter up there, right? Mm-hmm. 1, you got to learn how to control your inner voice and discern what's yours versus what's not. My favorite teaching, Michael Singer's taught some of the stuff. He wrote Untethered Soul, but a lot of NLP teachers teach this as well, how to command your own thoughts. And the word is hello. Literally, everyone right now, just take a moment and say hello inside your head. You're not saying it out loud. Tell me if you can hear that voice inside your head. Now say it like you're not listening. Hello, 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 hello. Throw in a little profanity. Throw in your name so it's dissociated. Like you're getting your own, your soul's getting your brain's attention. Hello, hello, hello. Earth the fucking Jeremy. Hello, motherfucker. But do this silently inside until you get a sensation of wanting to look over your shoulder and be like, what? Anyone that's a parent has experienced this with their kids. Dad, 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 dad. Until you're finally like, okay, not thinking of all the important shit I was thinking about now. You have my full attention. What?
Yeah.
You do this with yourself. And once you're there, what? Just remember that our emotions govern our breathing patterns. Our breathing patterns govern our emotions. All these breathwork people and yoga people, I love y'all, but quit telling people to take a deep breath. Because if someone's in anger, where do you breathe when you're angry? When I'm angry, I'm only in the top of my lungs. I'm not even using my lungs. So take a deep breath to where? Back to where I was. When someone's in shame, they're in the bottom of their lungs. Exhale, exhale, exhale. Push all your oxygen out. So hello, hello, hello. Earth to Jeremy, where the fuck you at, bro? What? What do you need? You spend enough time at the bottom of the swimming pool. I don't have to tell you to take a deep breath. Your natural motivation in Maslow's hierarchy. Use all your lungs and start using all your lungs, just like 3, 4, 5, maybe 20 breaths if you need to, if you're in the middle of some like chaotic trauma, right? Because we do encounter, as entrepreneurs, hey, 400 grand lawsuit or like some crazy shit can set you off. Yeah. Oh, I just forgot to bridge the network on that crypto. Just send it to outer space. Bye.
Yeah.
Right? Those moments, it's like it takes a few more breaths. But once you're there, questions, direct focus. That's it. If you want to have influence over people, you want to have influence over yourself, the human mind, our focus is directed by the questions we ask. Most people forget that 90% of the thoughts in your head are question related. What does this mean? What does that mean? We're always thinking in questions. Think if someone's trying to get your attention, eventually you're like, what? Okay, why is this important right now? And what do you want me to do? It's questions.
That's interesting.
Right?
Oh, I relate to it a lot.
Yourself or other people, questions, direct focus, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you all a question right now, and I want you to give me a one-word answer, but I want you to feel the answer, agree here and here. You'll know the answer right away, and you'll feel what coherence feels like. And if you had that little meter on, the inner balance heart math meter, it'll show you that you're actually moving out of just left brain into coherence, where those two signals agree.
So it's an actual device, too?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, I'm getting one of these.
Yeah, it's real-time feedback. So it's called Inner Balance. There's this little app by HeartMath, and it tracks all of it. These are sessions. See, this is a 90% coherent session. I could literally sit here and you ask me a question. It sends me into some trauma from childhood. Come back into my breath, focus on gratitude, love for my life. Like the good, the bad, the ugly, I'm here for it all. I'm loving what is, right? Move back up into coherence. I ask you this question I'm about to ask you. The answer moves you up into coherence because it's truth. My highest value is truth, right? Even though AI says there's no such thing as truth, there's probability, higher or lower, that's it. There's fucking truth to me. My heart tells me what's true, right? You agree with that at some level?
Yep.
You ready for the question?
Yeah.
Hello, hello, hello. Let all your air out. Use all your lungs. What is more important than right now?
I'm supposed to answer it out loud?
Yeah, one word.
Nothing.
Now I'm going to ask again, but I want you to feel that answer. I want you to feel your mind, your heart, everything agree. What's more important than right now?
Nothing.
Is there anything else? Is there anything other than this moment? No. So anytime you ask that question, all that noise of the crown and the root, what's more important than right now? Nothing. Feel your body relax instantly. That coherent state's just like, the fuck am I worried about? There is nothing else but right now. And my electrical energy immediately comes back to me. I come out of my head, back into my heart. I'm whole. So that's just that one. And I could teach you a whole bunch of other cool shit related to just those.
We about to do some crazy shit. I love
Wizard
that.
Shit. This is my favorite conversation.
So I've got 2 open, you said?
You got both present centers open, but it's a gift and a curse, right? It's like, imagine carrying a sword around just tucked through your belt without a sheath. Shit would cut the fuck out of your leg, right?
Yeah.
You can sheath the shit just with something like this. Like sometimes I want my crown to run. Because the way the crown works is like a computer program. The reason we think about the future and the past a lot instead of where we're at, if this, then that. Isn't that how we program a computer? If this happens, do this thing. My brain goes,
basic code.
If I went back to that conversation, if I had said this different, what would have happened? And if I had done this different, what would have happened? Playing chess. I'm like, fuck. If I went back to that 6th turn, right?
It'd be different.
Right? And so your brain is, it's picturing alternate realities and timelines for me to choose a different future trajectory. Hey, if I say this, what's that? Oh, yeah. Like, it's good sometimes to be unpresent. These people that say ADD and ADHD, you need a pill and all that stuff. No, you just need to know how to fucking control it when it's out of control.
I fuck with this. I don't even know what to say. I'm lost.
Perfect.
I'm like, it's good. It's good. I like this.
So here's the next step. Keep rolling. Yeah, and when you're ready to pull it back, pull it back. So I'm going to give you 2 more real quick. Those 2 are empathy centers. The one that's second down on your head and that one, a spleen. The spleen is a primal center. Every dog you've ever met has an open splenic center. What that means is you mirror people's breathing patterns.
Really?
So you can walk in a room and be like, what's with the vibe in here?
Yeah. Yep.
You can literally, back to what's more important than right now? Nothing. You tap into that feeling and then you go to the next level. So it all starts with presence and we go to empathy.
Love
then the
that.
next one is, whose breathing pattern am I mirroring? And you'll be like, that motherfucker right there. And you have just as much control over theirs as they do yours. So all you have to do, hold your breath. Look at that person, hold your breath. They'll start like, you ever had one of those moments you can't catch your breath? You're like, trying to yawn and stuff. They'll be like grabbing at their neck. You'll be like, damn, I could strangle this guy just with my breath right now.
That's cool.
And start resetting the room.
That's just cool. Damn.
Whose is this feeling? This ain't my feeling. Hey, what's more important right now? Is this your feeling? Nah.
That's dope.
It's like a light switch though. It's just comfort or not.
That's crazy. What the fuck? This is
I can share
epic,
a
bro.
whole bunch more.
Yeah,
but
we're gonna have to
we
talk.
got a whole podcast. So
Yeah, we're getting yelled at right now. No, we're not. I'm just kidding. But okay, so I want to know, how are you using this? Because like obviously I'm an entrepreneur. Everyone here is an entrepreneur. How are you using this for business owners, for athletes, for CEOs, for entrepreneurs? Like what is the step process?
Are you familiar with Michael Gerber's The E-Myth? That's the book that transformed everything for me in business early on. In my 20s, I was dancing circles around people, and people thought I must have done something to get these positions and roles and create the success I did. The E-Myth is one of the most famous books written for business owners and entrepreneurs, and it's, to me, one of the most foundational business books if you want to scale a company, exit, and have really great EBITDA value, build a flywheel, that it's a business, not a self-employed job. So the E-Myth is really simple. 1, E-Myth. Most entrepreneurs fail, right? Not everybody can be an entrepreneur. So the reason 90% fail is because a lot of people get into business because they don't like their boss, or they're like, I'm making this guy all the money, I'm gonna do this myself. Just because you're good at your work, you're a technician or practitioner, does not mean you're gonna be a great entrepreneur. And the whole premise of the book is about org charts and flywheels. And so you gotta get the right asses in the right seats, right?
Okay.
The E, there's 3 personality types. Entrepreneurial visionary. Those people think about the future a lot. They're thinking about what they want to create, right? The M, that's managers. They're thinking about the past a lot. so we don't repeat the same mistakes we made there. So they're good at training people on SOPs, and they're looking at the KPIs. Here's our trends. Here's our historical data. Then you need practitioners, technicians, integrators to actually do the fucking work. They're really present.
Yeah.
You don't want someone, doing surgery that's thinking about the future or the past. You want a technician, a practitioner, a specialist. So for me, the personality you are and having the right people in those right roles matters in business more than anything else. And I found a ton of my success just understanding that, getting people in the right roles. And back in the day, I used to use disc analysis, Myers-Briggs, strength finder tests. But you fill that test out is who you are today. So when I fill that thing out, I'm like, yeah, that's who I am. That's who I became, right? That's who I thought I needed to be in business.
Yeah.
And so it kind of trapped me in that. And then I found this science. Now I have genetic personality systems. I know the personality of a baby this morning. I have a 7-month-old, right? I knew her personality the day she was born. Do you know how empowering that is to know why she's reacting and responding the way she is?
Because then you can help
how
guide
she
it.
thinks, how she feels, how she processes energy. So yeah, that's how I use it. I get the right people in the right roles. And on the other side, most entrepreneurs, and I don't know, not everyone agrees with this, but most entrepreneurs become entrepreneurs because we suck at a bunch of other shit. And we overcompensate by like, hey, yeah, I may have F's in 3 subjects, but see these 3 that are A's? Yeah, this should be A+++++. You'll never catch up, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs are just good at one thing. They're almost autistic or have Asperger's when they're really successful. And they're really good at one thing. But they still carry and bury a lot of personal shame of the things they suck at or think they're horrible at. And so I use this to help heal people, right? What's wrong with you is exactly what's right with you. And I believe the biggest fucking, forgive my passion, but I truly believe that the biggest problem in the world today, like not just entrepreneurs, is comparanoia. We've got social media, and we've got this like checklist. All right, in order for me to be cool, I got to have this many YouTube followers. I got to look this way. I got to wear this shit. People are comparing to other people, and they're like, man, I don't have an A in this subject. What's wrong with me? How come this is hard for me?
Yep.
So like, if you can help somebody understand like what their natural strengths are, and that like you're never going to be good at this, quit trying to get fucking A's in something you suck at. It's also why I hate the public schooling system.
That's literally what I was about to just say. I'm the biggest believer. Focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses.
Yeah. So I hope that's a good enough answer.
Yeah, I know. I love it. So basically you're using the science behind it in order to find the people that they need and help them, and then help companies scale that way.
Yeah. Or even families. So imagine like, do you know a billionaire that's still married? No.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, no.
Divorce is like a 70% statistic on average in America, right? 70%. And did you know if you're an employee that statistic decreases every year you're married? So like if you and your girl are employed somewhere, you get married, that first year, the chance you getting divorced is really high. Second year, it lowers. It lowers every year you're together as an employee. As an entrepreneur, it increases.
Oh, shit.
Because with more success requires more time.
Yep.
There's more stress,
more work, more anxiety,
more sacrifice.
Yep.
And so like entrepreneurs, most of them burn their businesses down because they can see the parallel of destruction it's creating in their personal life, in their relationships. So when you can actually help a family understand, not just like getting the right asses in the right seats, because like you're with me for life, motherfucker. Like your kids, your wife, like how people act and respond. There's a whole lot more acceptance, allowance. You can have people actually be a much better handler because people understand how you operate under the hood. There's just more love. There's more trust. There's more respect. There's more synergy.
That's cool. That's really cool. So out of all your years of doing this, what is the number one thing that you see entrepreneurs struggle with? What is the number one thing that they have to overcome, fight?
It's the inner critic, without exception. I have a signature event.
The voice in the head.
I host it. Yeah, if you study brain science, like, the conscious mind, they say we have 50 to 90,000 thoughts a day on average, depending on what study you read. Entrepreneurs, there's a place in Sedona called BioCybernaut. You can go spend 100 G's and sit on biofeedback for a week with Dr. Hart. Entrepreneurs have 300,000 or 400,000 thoughts a day, right? And then when you go study the distribution of those thoughts, 87% of all of our thoughts, no matter who we are, on average, are negative self-talk. Right? What does this mean about who I am? My identity and my reputation, right? Like, does this make me a good dad or bad dad? A good human, a bad human? A good son, a bad son? So like, That
everything you're thinking is
Yeah.
reflecting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I do this exercise. I do a signature event a couple times a year called Soul on Fire Live and my self-mastery brand. And we do this exercise where I have people, I hand out packs of sticky notes, right? A lot of entrepreneurs have a breakthrough so quick just from witnessing this. If you're watching, do the shit right now. Get a pack of sticky notes. And I go, write down the shit your inner critic says to you that's ugly, horrendous, disgusting, that hurts, affects you, slows you down. What are those things? Because they've said 93% of our thoughts are repeated thoughts every day. So that 87% that's negative self-talk, it's just the same shit every day. Everybody hears that voice loud and fucking clear. People, they burn through the paper. I'm lazy. I'm fat. I'm fucking, and I'm like, no, put it in you are, because that's how our inner critic speaks to us. It's not like I am, it's you are. You're lazy, you're fat, you're whatever those things are. People just, they got like 30 of them. And then I'm like, hey, if your higher self could speak to you and say you are the opposite of those things, it would empower you and have you believe the opposite and fill you with fucking fire to go run through walls like Kool-Aid Man. What would that voice sound like? What would you say? And people are like, And they might write 2 or 3 down, which in and of itself is evidence that this is a really big fucking problem.
Yes.
But what I do is I bring them up to the room. I'm like, what I want you to do here, let me read yours. Ooh, that's ugly. Oof. Let's pick 3 of these. Which ones are the ugliest? Come up here. Let me see a couple of yours. Ooh, those are ugly. And I swap them and I put them on opposite people and I go, I want you to look in this person's eyes and say to them what your inner critic says to you. And these people break down. Because can you look at someone that you don't know and be like, you're a lazy piece of shit. You are a fucking loser.
Yeah.
No, you can't say that shit to any other human yet. And it creates a dissociation because that's not you. Napoleon Hill wrote Outwitting the Devil.
Yes.
So to answer that question, I think the biggest problem for entrepreneurs and people in general is the inner critic.
So you firmly believe that keeping them separate and trying to control it, or are you like? I'm actually very curious about this because like I am like obviously I'm very in my head. I actually literally was just talking about this, saying that I actually became so comfortable with just talking to myself and having conversations with myself that I didn't actually speak out loud to other people, even though when they would talk to me, I would answer them in my head.
I'm already having a conversation up here.
Yeah. I'm already talking to myself. I'm already figuring things out. I'm already grasping things. I'm already understanding it because it's become really fucking comfortable for me. Yeah, it's become really comfortable.
Well, here's the thing,
but it's for me. It's an individual for me. It's almost it's
totally
not me.
Get it.
So it's a different person for me.
Yeah, that's shadow work 101. It's a bunch of characters that live inside me.
Yeah,
I got a different voice in my head when I'm pissed off.
Yeah,
that's very destructive. And
yep.
Ruthless.
When I'm hungry, angry, horny, mad. They're all different. They're all different personalities. They're all different fucking people.
Joe Polish taught me that. Halt. Don't make decisions when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Halt. Right?
Really?
Yeah, because what's that voice sound like? Right? We've all seen Snickers commercials, right?
Yep. Grab a Snickers.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
So to answer that, like, I think it's a gift for someone like you. Exactly. If you question those thoughts, like I love Byron Katie's The Work. I don't know if you've heard of Byron Katie. She's one of my favorite breakthrough coaches. Healed a lot of shit for me, a lot of childhood wounds, a lot of real stuff up here. Most people don't realize how big of a struggle is when you're intelligent, when you're smart and you're capable, your inner critic is an asshole, right? If you've been telling yourself, I can't do this till I get here, and then the next day some shit happens and you need money and overnight you go make a couple $100,000 or you're fucked and you're like, oh my God, I just spent all this time. It's all lies. And you start questioning those 180, I don't know if you guys study cognitive dissonance, cognitive biases, that's how our mind lies to ourselves. Because if I can't trust myself, who can I trust? How can I survive in this life? Analyzing those thoughts, is that true? What evidence do I have to support that's true? What's an opposing thought that's actually better than that? Like having those conversations with yourself allow you to create permanent breakthrough. So when that voice shows up, I'm like, oh, you're just a little pussy, you're a little bitch. Oh, okay. And then I go do the opposite thing, right? I don't even hear it. It's not mine. It's not attached. I'm dissociated from it. But I think it's a gift. So
that's cool. That's
insecurity and inadequacy. Like insecurity is when you got a pimple on your nose, you go out in public, you look sexy. If everything else is fly, all you're thinking about is that little pimple. That's insecurity. Mm-hmm. Inadequacy is comparing against the infinite. Inadequacy is like, if I had infinite time and infinite energy, what would I do? And that's how my brain thinks. My brain's like, I know all this shit. So my brain's comparing against infinite. So I call it infinite inadequacy. To me, that's a gift. Where I'm like, no matter how good I do in the world I live in and the God I believe in, I believe I can always do better. I believe I can always learn. Everything I've ever done, I've gone back and looked and like, what would I do different? What people say no regrets. Fuck off with your no regrets. If I go, man, all the regrets I have in my life, what would I do different? If I could go back, there's a lot of shit I'd do different. And that allows me to see that I can do better. And then in real life, that inadequacy drives me to be better, stronger, faster, more compassionate, more loving. So I think it's a gift too. If you can learn to validate
I've actually talked to a lot of entrepreneurs recently asking about the regret side of things. And a lot of the greatest entrepreneurs that I've talked to, they've all said the exact same thing that you just said. All they said. They said straight up, I have regrets. They're there. I grow from it. I learn from it. Like, it's not no regrets. You know what I mean? They don't believe in that.
Yeah, I don't believe anyone should live in the shame of regret.
Yes, but you shouldn't be like, oh, I wouldn't go change this. I would go back and change a lot of shit that I did. Like, if I could, like, genuinely, if I could, like, I would. Now, I'm not mad about it, or I'm not like, it didn't change my life or ruin my life. I'm super fucking happy about it. But there's a lot of things that I've done to myself and personally that I would change, that I would focus on different things, for sure.
Absolutely.
If I could. You know?
Do you know Wes Watson?
Yeah.
So I haven't known what to think about that guy, right? I haven't known what to think.
Uh-huh.
And what I mean by that is, like, I couldn't relate. I couldn't relate with the guy, and I heard him speak a week ago.
Limitless?
He was out. No, he was out at Andy Elliott's.
Okay.
And like, he said something that made me get him totally, and it was badass. He was like, when you go to the clink, he was in the clink for 10 years, right? For most people, it's a prison of the mind. But really what it is, because it's not a prison for the body. You're still walking around. You're still doing shit. You can still work out. You can still eat food. You're alive.
Yeah.
It's a prison for the mind, but it's really a prison for regret. That's why we go to prison. So we think about our actions and we do something different. But most people, the only thing they regret when they get there is that they got caught, right? That's their only regret. 90% of the people there, their only regrets that they got caught. And he's like, when I got in there, not only did I start thinking about the regret that put me there, my brain thought of every regret I ever had and what I do differently. And so his whole mantra and way of life, it actually inspired me. And I developed so much respect for this guy.
Wow.
Because he was like, my way of living is, I wake up today and I go, what do I regret about tomorrow I don't want to repeat today? And I'm like, damn, that's a good guideline to get better every day.
Yeah, that's how you get better every day.
And he's like,
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I've talked to him a few times, but I've never seen him, met him in person, talked to him in person. So
that concept was really powerful.
Yeah, that's a cool one. Man, you can take so much from anything, everything. I fucking love this podcast. God damn it. Fucking love this podcast.
Yeah.
This is fucking epic.
I'm honored to be here.
Man, this is awesome. So what is something that you, cause you're, how old are your kids now?
I've got a 12-year-old little girl, 11-year-old little boy, and a almost 8-month-old.
Awesome. So are you teaching your kids these concepts?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
The older ones, obviously.
I don't force feed it. You know, I believe that, like, kids need to be kids too.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like a hard dad to be a child of already. So I try not to.
You're very. I get that energy. You're very like. Whew.
Yeah. So I want my kids to be kids, but yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. That's awesome. So who has been your biggest success story, or your biggest biggest person that like you really like when you like help them, they completely just change their life and how they change their life? You don't have to name them if you don't want to, but like what was something that like really like they just completely changed their life and it like fucked you up, like holy shit.
I've coached literally, it sounds like a lie when I say it, but I've coached almost 15,000 people.
That's dope.
My biggest success stories, I was talking about one before we started this podcast. I shouldn't have said that, but it wasn't on the podcast. So, like,
I didn't hear it.
So here, I'll just generalize rather than make it about one person. Okay.
All right.
I've met more billionaires than anyone you probably met. I only know a few other people that have met more than I have, and celebrities and all these people. And you know the one thing they all have in common? They're fucking miserable. They're not happy, right? They're happy when the camera's on, but behind the stage, man, like, they're not happy people. The gurus of self-development, all of it, like, most of them are unhappy. And so I have a ton of success stories of, like, people that were suicidal and the whole world didn't fucking know. They're in front of a camera, they're on movies, but every day they're driving home from the studio and they want to grab the wheel of their driver into oncoming traffic. You have no idea how many of those stories I've heard, or people that are trying to unbury themselves from that pain that they don't want anyone to know, and they're doing unhealthy shit. They're snorting coke off hookers' asses and addicted to things they don't want to admit. Look at the Tiger Woods stories and shit. That shit is prevalent across the board for most people. So my favorite success stories are those stories where someone's in that place and then they turn around and you see them doing this amazing thing, and it wasn't like they had some cool idea. No, they met the dark part of them and realized how that could serve them. And I truly believe that, you know, I've got probably like 20, 30 success stories of those kinds of people where it's like, man, these people are so impactful, right? The Robin Williams types that you don't know what they're going through, and they're destroying their personal relationships. They're drowning themselves in substances. Those are my favorites.
Don't you think, though, the people that are like that are the ones that are successful because they have that side of them?
Yeah.
Because, like, I know me, like, I have a very, very side of me that's there. Very, very prevalent. And, like, it's like, if I let that side of me, like, I could destroy shit.
Hulk smash.
Yeah.
Whole life, overnight.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Could. And that's, like, you know, but it's, like, that side of me that's, like, it's always there. It's always been there since I was a kid. It's been there. It's been great. It's like, I don't know what it is. It's just, like, I could destroy everything. I could burn the fucking world down if I wanted to. And that's that side. So it's like, but it's also that side that's fueled me to get to where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's the truth for most people. You know, it's like, how do you leverage, alchemize, and utilize that energy in a positive way, right? And for me, it's like looking at worst case and best case scenarios. I'm like, I run multiple businesses. If you run multiple businesses, at least twice a day, you consider burning every one of them fucking down.
Yeah,
right?
100%. Done it.
I don't want to answer this call, this person anymore. Going to burn that whole company to the ground.
Fuck that company.
And so, yeah.
I have that thought every day.
So I love to use the shadow and actually explore. I'll be like, all right, let's say that I go down that path. I burn that. It hurts those people. Eventually, like, I end up over here drinking and lose my family. I think of all that shit. And then I'm like, well, what's the best case scenario? I think of all that stuff too. And then I'm like, somewhere in the middle is probably more real. And it just like levels me out, right? Levels me out. And I think most people, they don't actually let themselves go into the dark enough. They don't like imagine death. They don't like picture the fact that we're dust in less than 100 years and like visualize worst case scenarios. I've found more best case scenarios and gratitude visualizing worst case scenarios. Old stoicism, right? Like, you need some fucking motivation. If you're listening and you need some motivation, you need a little inspiration, here it is. You're dead one day. You're alive right now.
Yep.
Breathe. There is no other moment. Get after it. All those life paths that are closed that you have regret, guess what? Doesn't fucking matter. Like a tree from here, you got a lot of branches you can grow, that you can build. I
said all the time, life is just, you know, you don't make it out alive. Like, what do you, it's so fun. Like, you don't make it out alive. What are you stressed about? Like, you know what I mean? It's not that serious.
Truly.
It's just not that serious. Nothing is that serious. That's why I like that. I'm not going to lie, that power, that technique where you were like, you know, what's more important than now? Nothing. Like, I'm probably going to be using that in my brain. That's a fucking powerful. That one right there, that's going to be clipped up. That's clipped up. I love that. Real quick before we wrap this up, because me and you are going to be talking after this.
We could be here till midnight.
I know, right? But I got one thing that I always ask everyone to do, and it's crucial. This camera right here, please leave them with something in 2 sentences or less. You can go over a little bit, preferably not much though. 2 sentences or less, something motivational and educational.
I like that. A little pop quiz. 2 sentences is tough for me. You ever heard that phrase? Like, you want me to speak for an hour, give me the mic. You want me to speak for 20 minutes, give me a month. You want me to speak for 5 minutes, you better give me like 6 months. 2 sentences. Okay. Might be more than 2, but I'll be brief anyway.
Done.
Look, it doesn't matter what the fuck you're thinking or who you think you are. Where you are is not who you are. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are the soul that inhabits you. And you have control over this vehicle. You're not a fucking puppet. And any pain you're going through right now, the beauty of it is you can only think and focus on one thought and one feeling at a time. And the greatest lesson I've learned that's allowed me to heal a lot of my pain from this lifetime and who knows how many past, is that the pain you're feeling is the love you're withholding. So whatever pain you feel, go and give love. Because when you're giving love, you're not thinking about your own pain. Science validates it, but the truth is you are the soul in control. You're not just this meat sack. You're eternal. You're infinite. You are the motherfucking light. Shine on.
I fucking love it. Where can they find you on social media?
You can find me at Jaramy Eugene Wilson. It's spelled JARAMYEUGENE Wilson.com.
Love it. Instagram or anything?
Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram.
We'll put all the handles down there.
Same thing. At Jaramy Eugene Wilson.
Love this. And guys, if you want to see more of this right here, learning more about this, we might do another series where maybe he just dives in and fucking dissects me as a human and tells me all the shitty things that I need to change and how I need to be. We'll do that. If you want that, please make sure you are commenting that down below. Drop that. And then also make sure you are liking and sharing these videos. Make sure that notification bell is turned on because we're dropping these podcasts every fucking week. And shout out to you guys. Thanks you for watching. Thank you for supporting. And let's grow, baby. Peace.
Start when we stop, we gon' get it done. When we start, we gon' get it done. Start when we stop, we gon' get it done.